Well, which is it? Is America becoming South Africa, or is South Africa becoming America? USA, RSA, perhaps a little bit of both. What are we talking about today? Vigilantism, a frightening prospect when people take the law into their own hands and have disastrous consequences. This is a hot topic at the moment because the Patriotic Alliance's leader, Gayton McKenzie, took his party members up to the border with Zimbabwe and saw that it's not defended.
We've got hundreds of people on this border. There's no one here.
Now that's getting a lot of attention, but of course we know it's not defended. It hasn't been defended for a long time. AfriForum has highlighted this, and most South Africans simply ignored them when they pointed out the hazards on the border with Zimbabwe. But how is this like the USA? Well, in Texas, Governor Abbott has put his state on the border because of the failures of the Biden regime, their intentional neglect on the border. It's crazy stuff what's going on there. The Biden regime actually suing to try to get Texas to behave itself. So we have a situation where the border has become an issue. Quite frankly, the border has been an issue for 40 years in America, both borders, the northern and southern border, the northern typically neglected. South Africa, the borders have long been an issue, whether it was Mkhonto Sizwe trying to get in or out of the country back during the National Party days. And since the end of that, it's been the neglect by the ANC for the past 15 years to defend its borders, in particular the borders with Eswatini, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe. And things can get quite bad and dangerous when it comes to vigilantism. In July 2021, the ANC government neglected to defend citizens. People throughout KwaZulu-Natal and in Soweto were forced to defend their homes, their businesses, and their shops while the ANC-led government sat on its hands. They sat on their hands for over 4 days. Ramaphosa not even mentioning the insurrection underway. At that point, nearly 100 people dead already within 4 days. The billions of rand of businesses lost, the billions of rand of looted businesses, burnt businesses, radio stations robbed, mortuaries, crematoriums burned to the ground for 4 days before the ANC took action. Now, this was all an ANC internal insurrection, which was ignored by the party while South African citizens suffered. This all came about over the imprisonment of Jacob Zuma, and it was easily predictable. In fact, I predicted it on June 29th of 2021 when he was sentenced to go to prison. But the ANC-led government's crime intelligence, their military intelligence, their national security advisor, their police, their military said or did nothing for 4 full days when this took place. I should correct that. The police, when they were attacked, responded, but they were not prepared, had not rehearsed, did not put resources in place ahead of time. So citizens had to defend themselves and their neighborhoods. And this led to all sorts of vigilantism and then all sorts of accusations. Over 350 people officially murdered or killed in this spree, but the number is probably much higher than that. Then we had the whole situation in the community of Phoenix, where Indian South Africans were accused of murdering Black South Africans, and it turned out to be largely a false story. Unfortunately, one of those in prison died in prison because he didn't receive proper medical care. Lives irrevocably damaged because of the inaction of the government. Now, as far as the borders, South Africa, under the African National Congress, back at the start of this century and into about 2007, used to have 7 South African infantry companies patrolling the border at the same time, the Zimbabwe border and the Mozambique border. That was their job. They were rotated out and replaced. But what happened to those South African infantry companies? Do they still exist? Are they capable of performing these operations? Because it appears there's no one on the border except for the Patriotic Alliance and AfriForum. Where are South African security services? Now, this is a dangerous activity. People should never take the law into their hands, but one can understand. In this situation in July of 2021, people had no choice. Either you put barricades up and defend your neighborhood with sticks or poles or guns and put roadblocks up, or watch your homes overrun, looted, burned by the nonsense that was going on because of the lack of response, particularly for the first 4 days, but throughout the 2-week ordeal by SAPS and by the SANDF. And then, of course, Cyril Ramaphosa shows up like the conquering hero after a business has been destroyed and gutted by fire with a wheelie bin. and a spade, shoveling debris in after he arrives in his 7-vehicle motorcade of BMW 7 Series. They look like very expensive cars, in a $10,000 suit easily. When people take the law into their own hands, it's bad news, folks. We see the murder of people accused of rape in the Cape Flats. We see xenophobic behavior, hunting down Zimbabweans and murdering them. This is not tolerable. What South Africa and America need are the rule of law. Both are sorely lacking in America and in South Africa. And it's time for governments to be replaced. In Washington, in Pretoria, these bombs need to go because they don't care about your safety and your security, your businesses, your property, your farms. They don't care about anything except what they can grift, whether they sit in Washington or they sit in Cape Town in the parliament. Vote them out in 2024. You have an option. And that option is no ANC, no EFF if you're in South Africa, and no Democrats and no rhinos in the United States. As far as Gayton McKenzie bringing attention to the border, I'm glad he's done it, but I would caution McKenzie and his party, don't take the law into your own hands. You can stand there and scream at people on the border and try to frighten them away, but don't start trying to arrest and apprehend people. Someone will get killed, and someone will be called to account for it because you're not the ANC. Only people who aren't in the ANC are ever called to account in South Africa. Well, folks, there you have it. Good luck out there. 2024 is going to be a bumpy year. God bless and be safe.